Hey guys, welcome back. Vela Night-Clad Part 2. So I will say I just went through a big stack of my, we'll call it my playable set-asides, but not the sleeved ones. So sort of like my bulk playables, we'll say. I went through that stack and I made some changes. So I took out all of these cards that were originally in the deck for reasons basically stated in the previous video, Part 1, if you will. There's a good chance this video could go terribly wrong and this phone that I'm recording with will fall off the stand. So yeah, brace yourself for impact. So you'll notice we took out a lot of lands. We took out kind of a lot of the off meta stuff, we'll say. This was questionable. The high CMC, I feel like he's just never as effective as you think he will be. Could have left in Future Sight. I don't mind the Future Sight include, oddly enough, because I feel like with this deck, you're pretty broadcasted already, so revealing's not a big deal. And playing off the top is a good way to get going if you don't have a lot of other card draw and you have a lot of other cheap stuff. Yeah, so we cut down the land. So here's what I added. You know, we did keep a small section. Here's what we kept. I'll just show it real quick. We kept the untapped lands. All right, we kept the untapped lands, except for Temple of Deceit. I think that's passable. Aqueduct probably passable. But all right, here's what we added in. I'm only adding in a command tower and a myriad landscape. You gotta have the command tower. I didn't really see any pain lands. I didn't really have underground river or anything in there, so I'm just literally just because that's what I found in the box, and I think it'll be okay. It's not too bad of a base. Here's what we're adding in. This is the stack of new cards to go along with the deck. So we are going with the strat of attacking and draining. You know, it's very straightforward. It's to the commander. Our stuff should most of the time be unblockable, so we can take great advantage of that. And we have a Blood Artist-like trigger here, but only for our stuff. And it doesn't heal you, it only drains your opponents. So a little drain effect when your stuff dies. So we just want to capitalize on that. Sarek, basically to drain people, and you should never get drained yourself because you're always going to be sacking stuff. So he's just a nice clock to try to end the game. Great value, something to sack, a nice ETB effect, decent interaction, and a body. I'm not sure if this is great, but I thought it was okay. A bunch of tokens to play with and sack, and drain people with, and get through with combat. Monarch, because it's going to be easy to steal back the Monarch with this deck if you lose it. Falcon Wreath Noble, sort of like a Blood Artist, just with flying. So, nice addition. Solaport Cutthroat. Yeah, just to double up, triple up, whatever we need to do with these sack triggers to end the game. Expendable Lackey, because he makes you a nice unblockable guy, which you might need, and it's just kind of 2 tokens. So, he could probably be replaced at some point with a bomb or something, but this is a decent slot filler for this kind of deck. It'll get you some damage in and some value for sure. Whirler Rogue. So you'll notice I kind of chose a lot of token generating stuff in some of these. I really wanted to be able to get a wide board state, have a lot of stuff to swing and sack. So that was the thought there. I just like Dust Mangler. He really wrecks your opponent's board. And I'm not sure if this is a great card for in here, but it's not bad. At least, you know, with like the Falcon Wreath Noble, you have to do more stuff. Dust Mangler just comes in and does his thing. And he does a lot. That's a lot of stuff to each opponent. So it's a pretty brutal thing. This deck should have some flicker shenanigans if we're optimizing it, because this does say it's not a dies trigger, it's just leaves. Whenever Vela or another creature you control leaves. So there is some soul bonding shenanigans people do, I think, with her. I didn't have that stuff in this bulk, so I'm kind of giving you a next step. But yeah, there's a few more definitely optimal just cards that naturally go with her. I think it's Peregrine Drake and the one soul bond that flickers. You just flicker Peregrine Drake and kind of get infinite mana. That's a thing people do with her. So just keep that in mind. This deck's not necessarily designed to do that. It's kind of more of a combat-y token. It will win games though, because it's gonna attempt to drain your opponents out, and if it goes well, then you know you'll drain them out. Opportunist. We were looking for some card draw. One thing that happens with decks like this that just play creatures is if you get wiped or shut down early, you don't have the ability to rebuild. So, or if you just run out of steam, you know, you want to avoid that. So, Revenant. This kind of goes well with milling yourself. This card shouldn't be in here. I read it wrong. Actually, honestly, that's going to be something else. Disciple, just to get the more sack online. I thought this guy was pretty good. You can consistently swing, draw a card. He's probably going to be unblocked because of Vela. So just more ways to draw cards. We'll see some combat triggers. We got a lot to go. We really morphed this deck into a new being. Like, what are we adding? This chunk is the new chunk. Alright. Tormentor. We do kind of have some stacksy clock stuff, which is how you often win. So, a great way to sack and drain. That goes well with Vela as a finisher. A little crafty nymph. Baron, yeah, he's just going to get huge. This Beholder's ETB is nice, so you can do some flicker shenanigans with it at some point whenever you add more of that. I didn't put a ton of it. I focused more on the combat triggers and the ETBs, but Vela should have flicker shenanigans to some extent. This guy's a great thing to flicker. Just kind of making your opponents sack down all their enchantments can be devastating. And he's also just a 6/5 intimidate, which is huge. I don't know. He's kind of a weird pick, but I just love this thing. It's great flavor. It's great flavor. All right, Master Thief. Not sure exactly what my theory was on this one, but I think it was, oh yeah, okay. So Intimidate can be blocked by artifacts. So if someone's got a big artifact like a Stone Coil Serpent, this is just a great counter to that to say, oh, it's mine. The Stone Coil Serpent will kind of stop this attack shenanigans in its place, and same with stuff generated from construct tokens and all that. So Master Thief can just steal those, which is interesting. A Mole Drifter, because you got to have it. Some combat damage, draw cards. I wanted to get some of these in here. I thought they were just kind of cool, just to keep you going. I really like this because you should be able to trigger this pretty easily with the new build and get you a cheap 4/4 ready to go and start doing damage. I don't know. It's also just kind of a cheap card I had. I don't know. That makes it sound bad, but this has a lot of potential. Stuff like this, a 3-mana 4/4 flying is pretty cheap. But that could be obviously upgraded to something better, some bomb or something, you know. Merchant, great thing to flicker. Right, once you get flicker shenanigans, just drain the table with these triggers womboing off each other. Cunning Evasion, I thought this was great because there's a lot of ETB stuff, a lot of ETB creatures, and you just can bounce them instead of lose them if you want, because if you want to play them anyway, it's perfect. And it's a way to win combat quite frequently, not lose your value. So I wanted to get something like this in here because it's swinging so much. Infernal Grasp, just it's the strongest one, let's admit it. It's just target creature. You lose 2 life, but no restrictions. You can get artifact creatures, which this kind of really needs to do at times, so I thought it also fit because of that. The Coveted Jewel, just to get more card draw, basically, and you should be able to always get it back pretty easily with her Intimidate shenanigans going on. And I got some hasty equipments that I had on a Cloak. Fire Striker, double strike on some of these triggers, combat triggers would be amazing, so put that in there. Kill people's equipment with your combat hits with this Hammer of Ruin. Should be able to help you take over games. Strider Harness, Haste. Yeah, you might want something like Lightning Greaves in place of this eventually, but it's the one I had in my pile, so it fits. Pen and Blade. Since we're going to be going a bit wide with tokens and swarming the board, I was thinking this would be a good way to end it, you know? The creature's going to be unblockable. You can make it absolutely huge, and boom. Just a counter spell. She is a wizard. So, I don't know. Her high CMC makes this retort not so good, but whatever, you know? I put this in place of one of the frog things, just to make a commander or something lose all its abilities, can kind of shut off someone for a turn or buy you a little time. So, that's kind of what you need sometimes when you're trying to deal with life totals. Warlock class, drain stuff, and kind of gets your cards. It does dump a few things in your graveyard, which we have a little bit of synergy with, but not a ton, because that stuff doesn't naturally synergize with her in any way, so that's why I didn't want a bunch, other than you want it to leave. So sometimes that can mean you want more stuff in your graveyard, but we're kind of just putting that as a splash. That could probably be changed to something more Vela, but it's not bad. It does drain people too, so there's that. This thing is way better than it sounds. You basically get a really good creature out of this, guaranteed, and maybe 2 of them, and your opponents lose a lot. So it's not bad. I still need to play test this a little bit. I've never really casted, but I think it's better than it seems. Dance Macabre, Ingrux, Wake. Yeah, you gotta have something like this in your deck, right? At least one. But yeah, it's just a game-winning spell. Procession, just to get a lot of tokens to work with. Sack, potentially. Control magic to steal people's commanders or their good blockers. Mission to keep going. And we put in some better signets and stuff. Some 2-drop ones just to get going a little sooner. Wayfarer's Bauble. And a Deadly Dispute just to get some value out of something you want to die anyway or is going to die. That's the new deck. Yeah, we got to find something better than Revenant. Revenant doesn't synergize well enough, I don't think, to include. I thought it was all graveyards when I read this at first, but it's only yours, and it's going to be like a 1/1 for 5. It's going to feel terrible. Yeah, it's not really playable in this deck. But, okay, so I'll show you a list of, or not a list, this is just a stack of other cards that I was thinking about maybe including. Trophy Mage to get the right, it's all 3s, and there's a lot of 3 equipments. A couple more of these sack guys, Traumatic Visions, which is great for sorting out your mana early on, or just sitting on a counterspell late game when you have a big board state is quite good. So it'll probably be this, honestly. I was kind of leaning towards this a little bit. But there's also Echoing Truth, which is a very strong removal spell, and it does hit a non-land permanent, so you get Ensnaring Bridge or whatever shutting off your combat. So, pretty good. You know, a lot of other things here that I was just kind of thinking about. It's hard to make a pick of just one, right? I think the right choice is going to be a little more on-board interaction. It's probably going to be the Echoing Truth. There's just really not much of that in this deck, so it kind of does set up to be shut down when you kind of lean too hard into a strategy and don't have enough stuff to deal with anything. Because there's what, Portal Mage kind of oddly in here, which is great for the return attack. So if you're turning sideways all the time, yeah, you want to redirect the attack that's coming back at you. These are some of the OG cards that Torian had that I thought were great. Oh yeah, another equipment there that can end the game with. So yeah, this is the full deck. What should I do now, you know? I think this deck has the potential of coming out on top if you play it right pretty frequently. You know, in kind of casual mid-power games. I'm not saying like super high-powered, but there are definitely optimizations to be made. What do you guys think? Let me know what you think. I'm going to flip through the rest of this, but that's the video. It's the new deck. I don't know. What can I say? Like 10 likes, and I'll do a part 3 of me playing this against one of my decks as it is here. But you got to do it within like, you know, 2-3 days. So hit the like button, subscribe, etc. Thanks for being cool, I guess. What do you say? I'm bad at these outros, in case you haven't noticed. That's okay, this is fun. Just imagine that you're watching this right now. I'm going to a weird place. Alright. See you guys in the next video. Matt out. You know what we can do though is just shuffle and draw a few 7s. See how it looks. Alright, right. Draw a 7. Oh, that's absolutely terrible. 1 land. Can't keep. Alright, let's shuffle her back up. Draw a new 7. Okay, this is looking okay, but kind of bad. It'd be great if these were low CMC creatures that kind of drew us cards or something. But no, I mean, we could keep that. See what we rip off the top of the deck, but it's kind of risky. It's possible that this isn't shuffled great. I'd probably try this. We got the Lackey early game. We can cycle this if we don't draw a land. Once we get to 6 or 4, we can pop down this guy. 6, we can get the Jewel. This is playable. I'd keep this, and if we had to put something back, it'd be the Regent probably. And hope to shuffle and draw into him later. So be like first turn. Oh, I played the wrong thing, but Lackey. The whatever island. Second turn. This into the hammer. Third turn. Uh-oh, no land. Well, if we desperately need to kill an equipment, we could beef him up, but that's probably not going to be the case. We'd probably rather just, unfortunately, cycle that. Try to get the land drop. Don't get it. Okay, questionable turn 4. Okay, we get a pathway. And we can play this Opportunist. Probably our best play there. She's not in play. And you know, kind of go from there. Not great, but hopefully your opponents aren't aggroing you too hard. And we don't have any interaction. That's worrisome. So if someone tries to combo off or something, we got nothing. That kind of feels bad. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this is going to be a super strong deck in its current build. It is kind of value or budget, we'll say. Quite budget. But I think there will be a lot of cases where it can kind of hold its own. It's not meant to be flashy. It's meant to take its time, build up a board state kind of thing. But yeah, a little worried about the lack of interaction, and actually I didn't really calculate that out. Usually I have somewhere between 10 and 15 depending on the deck. And this probably has on the low end of 8 or so. Alright, this isn't too bad here. We got a quick Lackey with Cunning Evasion and an Angel. That could come out pretty quickly. We do need a black mana, but it's... I don't know. Let's see, what would the next cards be? Yeah, I don't know if this is going to be strong. These drawing 7s are making me feel a bit worrisome. It's mostly these super expensive creatures. We might be a bit heavy on those. So we want this to be like a 4-mana bomb, right? We want to get to a 4-mana bomb and pop off from there, you know, something like that. It's not as easy to get to your 6-mana bomb. But that's just the way that power creep is. You just want to kind of play some strong stuff in your slots. I guess that's obvious, right? But that's true for every deck. But this isn't quite that way. Is it better than the previous way? I would guess that it would be, just because it's more focused. It's a 0-lander. All right, I'm just gonna look at another 7, see how it feels. This is decent. We can definitely deal with this. I keep getting this guy in every hand, it feels like. There's only one in the deck. It'd be like a Warlock class into Lackey, or hold the Lackey and draw with Warlock class. The drawing Warlock class would show us a bunch of cards. No lands though. Did I go too light on the lands? Maybe I did. Alright. Well, after further analysis, I don't think this deck is very strong in general right now. If you really wanted to make it as close to CEH as possible, you should run like a lot of Mana Crypt ramp stuff to get to her, and then to a Soulbond combo with a lot of tutors, Dark Ritual stuff. Build up your hand, cast that thing, you know, Peregrine Drake, Soulbond guy, flicker loop, and kill the table. So that would be like the CDH version of her. This is definitely not that. It's just kind of combat value. Alright, well, it is what it is. I don't think it's, I'm not gonna lie, this drawing all those 7s really bummed me out. That did not look like fun. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Look at this. Since I can't play anything, there's nothing to play. Oh my god. Alright, I think this deck needs reworked. Final part of Vela, the Night-Clad. So, I did make a few more little edits, nothing huge. Basically trying to reduce the CMC of stuff, and I did get some games in with this, with a group. So, I got to actually play it out and feel it out a little bit. And I'm going to say it didn't feel too bad. Now in this match, this commander match, which was like almost 2 hours long, I did not cast Vela the Night-Clad a single time. So she felt very inconsequential, and the deck kind of did its own thing and threatened pretty well without Vela even being out there. The reason I never cast her wasn't for any reason other than there never came a situation in that game where it felt like it was the play. So that's how it went. But overall, the deck did feel pretty strong. Last things I want to say, these cards probably need to come out. Baron Sinjir, I don't know, he's okay. Savarak doesn't really fit the deck too well, other than it's another clock. Tormentor, Sangromancer. I think instead of those, you could add in stuff like these, which I'm not putting in the deck, but just for example. Cloud Kill, a nice -6/-6, is pretty epic in this deck. Elder Brain, a great attack trigger that can really get you a lot of cards. Westgate Reagent. This thing can grow to an enormous size if it can't be blocked, which Vela could help with. Fiend to Shadows, it's going to get some cards out of your opponent's hands, and it can regenerate. Not super great, but it's kind of an attack trigger that gets you stuff. And Rankle, Master of Pranks, he can be pretty epic in the deck, swinging and getting hits, and he's got haste, which is great. And I also put in this Broodmoth Viper. It seems like it's going to be pretty good at drawing you a lot of cards, even though it is kind of a high CMC. 3 cards per swing might be pretty epic. I put Future Sight back in the deck just to play off the top some and keep the gas flowing. And I think most of it's about the same. But yeah, overall, the deck held its own pretty well. It's still got some room for improvement, and kind of getting some more attack trigger stuff in there, or if you really want to go high powered, you can keep ramping things up until you can Vela turn 1 and that Soulbond guy turn 2. I can't remember his name. Someone will probably say it in the comments. Alright, well that's it. I'm tired. I'm done working on this deck for now. I'm going to hand it back to Big T. And I don't know. I guess that's it. Let me know what you thought. If you like these kind of videos, this is just everything I took out. A huge deck. This deck like morphed to a new deck, pretty much. And yeah, I think it went pretty well. Based on that one match, which is kind of isolated performance, the deck really almost won. I almost won the game, but couldn't quite pull it off. Could definitely be a little stronger. Alright, thanks for watching. Vela's going back in the box. You guys can go back in your box, and I'll see you next video, if not sooner.